You're listening to Something Cheeky, a collection of podcasts where two sisters discuss TV, books, and movies with just enough irreverence and far too many pop culture references. Welcome to Something Cheeky, where we discuss the TV series Vikings. I'm Nikki.
I'm Rosanna.
While I've watched the entire series, Rosanna has only watched up to what we're covering today, which is Season 2, Episode 5, Answers in Blood. In this episode, suddenly honesty is the best policy and everyone's pouring out their hearts, and no one we know died.
Yay!
Rosanna, what was your reaction to this episode? It seemed a lot lighter than previous episodes.
I liked this episode. It was not hard to watch, like some recent episodes have been. I was kind of already jonesing on a girl power high anyway this week because you and I joined the #LadyPodSquad Slack group and Facebook group, which is full of women podcasters. So I've been like, yay, ladies.
Hey, ladies.
And also I saw the new Wonder Woman movie, which my daughters and I practically flew out of the theater because we were so hopped up on this movie. It was
Nice.
Amazing. So then I watched this episode, and it is just like Lagertha, front to back, up and down. She was so amazing this episode.
Really was.
I loved her so much. I mean, I do anyway, but everything she did to me was gold. Also, I really, really liked the music they used in the background of the battle scene.
Oh, okay.
You know, as I was watching, it really stood out to me. If you're interested, go back and just watch that one scene and just listen to it. It's super cool music. So the whole episode just felt way more upbeat than we've had in the past. And it's nice to have something a little hopeful, I guess.
Yeah.
Give us a little hope instead of despair.
What was your favorite quote this time?
The quote that I chose is by the Seer.
Oh.
Is speaking to Ragnar, and he says, "You are only fooling yourself, Ragnar Lothbrok, if you think the choice is yours to make." And he's talking about choosing between Princess Aslag and Lagertha.
Yeah. The Seer's been sassy.
And Ragnar's like, who should I pick? And the Seer's like, you have no control in this situation. It is up to these women.
He's had a lot of sass lately, and I've really enjoyed it.
Yes. I don't even mind how horrific looking he is because he's been just like so great. Definitely on his side right now. And Ragnar was like, wait, what? I'm the man. And the Seer's like, don't matter, dude.
Let's get into the action. We started out in Wessex, which was interesting. I was excited we'd get to see Athelstan so quickly.
I'm worried about Athelstan.
As you should be.
He is really starting to crack up. He was the downer of this episode. I think he's having a nervous breakdown, actually.
He needs a little bit of rehab, maybe.
He needs a therapist. You know, I don't think there are a lot of people in this world that wouldn't benefit from therapy,
That's
honestly.
true.
But especially, I think Athelstan is like PTSD right now.
Yeah.
He needs to talk to somebody. And like we talked about before, he's sort of lost in between these two worlds. He's kind of going back and forth, and he doesn't have anyone to talk to.
And you know what I just realized too? He started out, as we know, as a regular monk. He seemed pretty happy in his life. He was captured by the Vikings, lived with them for years, and basically had to integrate. He had to completely change his life, his faith, everything about himself to fit in, to live, to try to feel good about his life. And then he went back to England and was captured by the English again. And so now he has to do it all over again. So it's basically Stockholm Syndrome. I mean, they're in Scandinavia. So it's the right place for it. It's not like I've been away from home and I'm just going back and I'm going to go do the same things I used to do. He's completely turned his life to a different path. Everything about his life, seriously, even, not just the way he looks, but the way he feels about things have totally changed. His approach to violence and everything. And so now trying to change back or decide if he even wants to. At this point, there's no reason for him to think he's ever going to go back to live with the Vikings again.
Which is exactly how he felt when he was at the Vikings. There was no reason for him to ever think he was going back to England.
I feel like I'd have a nervous breakdown too.
And the thing about Athelstan that I think is so sad is that he has not been given a choice either way. His only way to survive has been to change the way he acts, and he's not really allowed to have an opinion or a feeling one way or the other. He has to conform.
Yeah. And he's in active danger if he doesn't.
Oh, definitely.
And the fact that he has to try to go back to a Christian faith after they crucified him. I mean, what an introduction to a religion if he had just been a pagan before that. You know, now that we've freaking crucified you, nailed you to a cross, stuck a crown of thorns on your head. Now I saved you, so now you get to go back to being a Christian and think that that's all fine and dandy.
And it's not even like he's a slave in England now.
Yeah, since they don't have slaves.
He's just like a prisoner. I mean, he has no rights.
Yeah, it wasn't clear what his position is. If he is just a kind of hanger-on, or if he is actually imprisoned by them, or if he's not allowed to leave, or what.
Oh, I'd say he's not allowed to leave for sure. Because wouldn't he have, well, I don't know if he would have gone back to Horik's camp because so many of those men were killed. We don't know where Horik is or what he's doing.
We know he lived. Did they live and go back to Norway or Sweden or whatever place they lived in?
He made a big stink about having Athelstan stay with him, but nobody's gone to rescue Athelstan.
Yeah.
So...
I know, I'm pretty sure that he would not waste men trying to rescue Athelstan.
No, he wouldn't.
We meet the ex-wife of Christ, which I was a little confused about her whole situation. She's married, so is she just an ex-nun that then got married? But no man is supposed to see her face, but if she's married, then somebody... I'm very confused about who the hell this woman is.
I also did not understand.
But I don't think it matters. I'm not quite sure why they introduced so much confusion there for us.
Okay, so when she first comes out, what I thought was she was one of the nuns that was a victim during that last scene, and that maybe she was saying she was the ex-wife of Christ because...
she'd been defiled.
Right, and then she got beat up by the Vikings, but then she said that her husband did that to her. So I'm like, oh, so we're talking about an actual person.
And Egbert had no patience for this woman at all.
He was distasteful.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen him with women until now.
Right, that's true.
Speaking with any women at all, which is always... sometimes I'll like a character until I see how they treat women, and suddenly it just seems like a big departure from what I expected. And that makes me really mad because I'm like, I liked you, and you just ruined it. Mm-hmm. Athelstan's back in monk's robes.
I thought that was really weird.
Yeah, it's an interesting choice. And I'm not sure who dressed him if he chose those, because that's just what he's comfortable in or what. But that was...
No, he's not.
Not anymore. And obviously very hobbled from his injuries. He's walking around on a crutch. We're not sure if he's a confidant or maybe a fool of the king's. But he is asked for information about the pagans when the woman comes about how they treat women. And holy shit, the woman's husband wanted to have her branded in public. I feel like that was really burying the lead there. When we found that out at the end of that scene.
Yeah.
They said that and I was like, wait, what? And I had to rewind for a second. Like, is that just what they said? It's so nice that she didn't have to be braided in public. Like, beating her that way wasn't enough.
Yeah.
We see Applestand out in the courtyard, kind of marketplace, it looks like. And Aethelwulf, King Egbert's son, comes up to him and says they might take Athelstan with them when they go see King Aela in Northumbria, which... we learned a couple things. One, they're going to see King Aela. What do you think about that? Why are they going to see him? What's happening there?
Maybe they know that he got really, really mad at these Vikings and that he's sworn revenge.
And he lost a lot of money?
Yeah, and they're going to work together, possibly.
Okay.
I find it hard to put any sort of trust in any king I've met so far.
Yeah.
Because... they all seem like they're just out for themselves, and...
they're pretty wiggly.
Yeah, so, I mean, they might try to make some sort of an agreement or a pact, but I don't know how much faith I'd put in it. It's also strange that Athelstan seems to be a prisoner, but then he's also in the market on his own.
Yeah.
Maybe he's just not leaving because he's just weak and injured. And it's like the same thing when he first showed up with Ragnar. It's like, where are you going to go?
Though, I mean, this is... where he's from, at least the full country that he's in.
Do you think he's going to go home?
Well, it didn't sound like he wanted to. I mean, he doesn't really have anything left there. But, I mean, he had the monks. But what about actual family? Does he have blood relatives?
That's what I mean, home, like where he was raised.
Or was he an orphan? I mean, do they give orphans to the church? Is that something that happens? Now I'm just thinking of the...
the Lies of Loch Lamora.
Yeah. and all the orphans going to be initiates of different faiths. Athelwolf, I don't feel like that's the way you get people to go to mass, is to tell them they should probably show up there in a threatening manner.
I'm not really a big fan of this character. It would be fine with me if he just disappeared. He just doesn't really have any redeeming qualities right now.
Poor Applestand thinks he gets a vision of Mary, mother of Jesus. This is when we first start to see the cracks in his psyche.
He was starting to lose it last episode, too. Remember? Because he saw bleeding Paige.
Oh, that's right. That's
book.
right. Yeah.
So he's been sort of on his path to crazy.
Since he got back to England. I forgot about that. I was thinking it started when he got captured, but yeah, you're right. It was before that.
It was during the rape scene.
Yeah.
All the Vikings and nuns, yeah. So he's not dealing with his transition very well.
No, not at all.
Understandably.
And he is also starting to see parallels in Mass between the Jesus crucifixion and the sacrificial ceremony at Uppsala.
And then he takes communion but spits it out.
And then Aethelwulf sees him do that and looks disgusted, which I get. I mean, if you believe that that's a sacred thing, then it makes sense.
Well, but here's the thing, though. Athelstan must also still believe it is a sacred thing. Because why would he spit it out if he didn't believe? I think he spit it out because he didn't believe that he was worthy.
Ah, that's a good point.
If he was really still in the Viking culture and way of life with their gods, it wouldn't have mattered to him if he swallowed it because it would have just been bread.
I think you're right. I didn't even think about that. That's a really good point.
Yeah, so I think it does mean something to him, and that's why he wouldn't swallow it. But I don't know what that means for his faith, which way he's going, or his next step.
At the end, he's praying desperately to have faith again.
Right.
When we start to hear the ominous whispers and something weird running around the room.
Yeah, and the demon with 1,000 teeth.
Yeah, that actually cuts him, even though it's a vision.
I think he probably cut himself.
Yeah, that's my guess. He's got some issues. Poor kid.
He's delusional, I think.
Yeah. I feel so bad for Athelstan.
I really do. He's had a rough go.
Out of all the people, he's had the hardest of any character, the hardest time this show.
Absolutely.
So that's everything in Wessex. Let's get to Scandinavia. We get to the farmstead, and Lagertha and her shield maidens walk in, and Rollo just looks starstruck. He's obviously still totally smitten with her badassery.
And her with her shield maidens, amazing.
Yeah, I have such a crush on Lagertha. I love her.
Oh, she's just the best.
I loved everybody's reaction to seeing Bjorn again. It's like he's a different person.
We don't even recognize you.
Yeah. It was nice to see him forgive Rollo. He said everything is new now, and Rollo seemed to really appreciate it. It was really nice to see Rollo start to turn a new leaf over in this episode. You know, he talked later about being the snake that shed his skin, and it really feels that way. It feels like he has changed for the better so much, just in really significant ways.
I have a hard time with this because I want to root for Rollo.
Yeah.
You know, and it's very obvious to me that the show writers are pushing us to that, like we talked about last time. But I try to imagine how I would feel about an actual person in life who has maybe had some issues in the past but is trying to move forward. But if you're talking about somebody that raped a person and now they're saying that they've shed their skin and they're a new person, that is hard to forgive.
Yeah. It is one of those, nice for you, but what about all the people that are now living with what you've done to them?
Yeah. And
Ragnar, too.
And I don't know what it's like to have someone in my life that has treated me or people close to me very, very badly and then has tried to make a change. So I don't know how I'd react to that person. I feel like it's wrong of me to just let it go. However, it would just be so much easier to just go along with it, just to forgive him, because he's not a real person. He is a character. He's made a lot of really good changes. He's made a lot of good changes. His behavior is completely different. And it's not even that I don't believe that he has changed. I think he has.
Okay.
But I still have this hang up, you know, of that just one scene where he just had no regard for somebody else.
Yeah. And that's not even counting, the portrayal of Ragnar and his family.
The thing about Ragnar is that, as much as I agree that that's a betrayal, Ragnar can protect himself.
Yeah.
And Rollo knows that. That slave had nobody and nothing to protect herself. And Rollo knew that.
So here's a question for you. Do you think this is a permanent and sustainable change that he's made?
I do.
Okay, so you don't think he's just going to fall back into bad habits?
No, I don't. I
Right.
think this is how he's going to be. So I'm really struggling between holding on to that one thing and just digging in on it,
Yeah.
or just being okay with it and moving on. Because they're making Rollo likable.
Yeah.
I can see that they're doing that. It would be easy just to like him now.
You know, that could be making the characters more real, too, though. I mean, people make mistakes. Hopefully they can rise above those mistakes and improve themselves and make up for those things that they've done. But people have layers. People are complex. And they're not all good or all bad like they're so often painted to be in fiction.
I think what maybe I might settle on is, it's kind of a cop-out, but I'm just not really sure how to resign myself otherwise, is that these are Vikings, this was a different time, she was a slave, people's opinions were different, behavior was allowed that isn't allowed now. I mean, I'm just making excuses because it would just be more comfortable for me with the rest of the show to be able to move on with him.
I think it's okay to just feel conflicted.
Okay.
You don't have to like him or hate him. You can go back and forth.
For a long time, just thought that he was, sort of having Siggy as a stand-in.
Right.
Because he couldn't have Lagertha. But the conversation about the snake and shedding the skin, I felt like there was some real intimacy between them.
Yeah.
And that's seriously, the first time in this entire time that I saw that he has real emotions, has a real connection to Siggy, and actually cares about her. And that pushes me even more in his camp, I guess. It's hard. I'm struggling with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how that evolves.
And also, would I feel the same way if he was ugly? There's that too.
Oh.
He's not ugly. He's so attractive.
Yeah, that's always the dangerous thing. That's...
Yeah. It's tough. It's not fair, but I mean, it's human nature.
Yep, that's on Reddit. It's off quoted. Rule 1, be attractive. Rule 2, don't be unattractive.
That's just how it is.
Yeah, it's easier to like people when they're good looking. I don't want that to be true, but it is.
I don't want it to be true. I don't want it to be true. And there's another thing too, is that when you meet people, you have this first impression, attractive, not attractive. But the more you get to know them, the more your perception of their looks change.
Right. Bjorn meets his half-brothers, which is nice.
So adorable.
Yeah, and Aslog said Sigurd's snake in the eye is named after Aslog's father and the baby's own father. What?
So does that mean that Ragnar, she thinks he has like a symbolic snake in his eye? That's the only thing I could get from that.
Like, not like I'm trying to hide a spoiler. I had no idea what the fuck she was talking about when she said that. I was so confused.
All I can think is that he has like a metaphorical snake in his eye. Because okay, this is how dumb I am. The next time they showed his face, I was like, is there a snake in his eye? Because I seriously I didn't know what she was talking about.
Oh my god. And the looks in this scene, there was so many significant looks back and forth. Ragnar, when he first sees his former wife and his current wife together, he's like, damn it. And then when Lagertha turns around and basically only lets Ragnar see what this is costing her to act so nicely to all these kids and to Aslog, it's tough. But they come up with a plan to destroy the winter food stores. Though that makes me wonder, if they get Kattagat back, what are they going to eat this winter?
I thought about that too. And what I came up with was they decided it was worth it.
Okay.
They were just going to deal, but that they needed to get back in.
So Ragnar, Bjorn, and a couple of guys who seem pretty expendable sneak into Kattagat. Yep, they're totally red shirts. They sneak into Kattagat. Ragnar tells Bjorn, don't fear death. If it comes, embrace it as if you're lying down next to a beautiful woman. And now I'm wondering if Bjorn has a girlfriend or if he's like some giant Viking virgin at this point. I'm hoping he hasn't just slept with slaves.
Yeah.
Unless they're into it, of course, but I don't know.
I guess, he's like 18, 17, 18.
17, yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that.
I imagine they start young there. I mean, he could be married by now.
Oof. I suppose.
And they get a distraction started, but one guy doesn't leave, so Ragnar just clucks like a chicken and then brains him with this axe that he throws perfectly. All I could think was Gene
That's
Tannen.
exactly who I thought of.
Yep, Liza Locklear and Gene Tannen and his hatchets just right there.
Wicked sisters.
Yep.
Okay, so I had a reaction during this part where Bjorn is there with Ragnar. Ragnar's telling him, don't be scared, fight, whatever. Ragnar's never actually been to battle with Bjorn. Hasn't seen him in several years. He didn't want to say, I don't know, test him a little bit, have like a little spar off. As far as Ragnar knows, Bjorn doesn't know how to fight. He's just taking his word for it, and he's going into battle with way more men than he's taking in, and he's just assuming that because he's his son, he's a good fighter?
Listeners, you may notice a change in Rosanna's voice. For just a second, we had to stop recording because we had a sick baby, but now we're back the next day, and Rosanna was partying last night. Now her voice is a little bit gone, but we'll get right back into it. I wondered about that, and then I thought, well, he did practice with Ragnar when he was younger, and he's got a mother that's a shield maiden, so it would make sense that he would continue his training. But yeah, I mean, there is no actual... He never asks him, though he is a big brawny guy, so you have to figure he's been doing something.
I agree that he probably assumes that he has continued to train, but we're talking about 4 people going in to fight pretty much an army. So your life is literally on the line, and he's going to assume that Bjorn is a good enough fighter to not only protect himself, but to also protect the 3 other men.
Yeah, and then, of course, gets mad later in the episode when Bjorn's not as good as he had expected.
I just feel like they should have had, like, a pre-invasion spar to check his skill level. Maybe. Well, I thought it was a little weird during that scene, and then later on, when Ragnar is telling him he has things to work on, I was like, well, yeah, there was no way for you to have known that before. He didn't even ask him, hey, by the way, have you kept up your training? Or being the stepson of an earl, have you just been lazing about? We don't know. He doesn't know.
One of the red shirts is attacked by dogs, which I'm really glad that it was dark, so I didn't have to see that. Those always seem so vicious. The other guy's pretty badly hurt. Bjorn jumps in behind one of the other soldiers, the guards, and just slits his throat. No pause, so it's obvious that he's pretty comfortable with all this.
Which is also weird, because has he been invading with Earl Douchebag at some point in the last 4 years? Or is he just fine with killing people? The way he did that couldn't be his first murder.
I don't know, or he was trying so hard to impress his father that showing no emotion then was fake.
I guess.
But we don't find out. They make it to where all the grain is kept. What is that, a granary? Is that what it's called? I was thinking they really needed a big lighter. They're just standing back there trying to get a fire started.
That was a really frustrating scene.
I was just like, come on, just do it.
And really, relatively, with 2 rocks, I thought he did it pretty fast.
They manage to light it on fire, and they get out of town, and of course the town is going crazy. And then the next day, we've got the Borg out there with some soldiers and his wife, and he's looking at blood on a rock. All I could think was Prince Humperdinck and his tracking.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, and Mrs. the Borg, I'm going to call her, because I don't remember her name, if she's even been given one. She's pregnant, which is... good? Bad? To me? Well, she doesn't want to stay in Kattagat, so she also seems a little bratty like Aslog. So I'm assuming she's come from wealth. She doesn't want to stay there without Jarl Borg. But he heads off anyhow, and they get to this field and notice a man standing in the distance up against a big log. And he's not really moving. It looks like a pretty obvious trap. The Borg looks around, doesn't see anybody, and then goes up to the man, who falls over, and then hears a horn. We go to the side, and there's Floki. And when the Borg sees him, he does this eye roll thing. Like, God damn it, not again.
And also, the Borg had crazy eyes this whole episode.
He did.
Did you notice every time they looked at him, they were like really wide open, and sort of his pupils were like banging back and forth? He was crazy eyes this episode.
He might be becoming unhinged a bit. Can you say unhinged a bit? It might be one of those all or nothing kinds of things.
How about slightly unhinged?
There you go. We get a nice line of Viking warriors, and then very dramatically a second line of Lagertha's people comes up. They do stuff like that in this show, and tons of movies do it that way just to make it super dramatic. But for me, it takes away everything because that's not how an army would actually present themselves. So if I stand on the hill, let us know when he notices you, then we'll all come up and scare him all together.
It's so obviously for show.
Yeah. Maybe the Vikings were drama queens. We really don't know.
Based on this show, I would say yes, but I don't know how historically accurate their egos are.
We need a historian to tell us this.
Yes.
Yeah. We get a cut to Aslog, who... It's not super clear if it looks like she's going to have a vision of the battle, but I'm assuming that the battle she sees is what actually happened.
Yeah, I thought at first that it was going to be a vision, but as it went on, I assumed that she was just watching it as it happened.
I loved the shield wall bash they did, where everyone backed up and did the wall and then just ran for, like, the worst Red Rover game ever.
Mm-hmm.
It was really fun. It was nice to see a new battle tactic that we haven't seen before.
I also found it interesting. I think that Jarl Borg's men are really good at beating up defenseless villagers, but there's no way they could have ever invaded if Ragnar and his crew were around, because they're not that good.
Yeah. Or just Ragnar's people are so good.
Yeah, that
they seem to beat everybody. They seem like elite warriors.
They didn't seem as organized or well trained, and I think it's probably because they don't fight much, or maybe fight that sort of caliber of warrior.
Yeah. And I guess having such an experienced and talented captain as Ragnar's army does, I mean, I guess he's like their captain, or their general. I guess general's probably a better word. It's probably helpful, because they're used to following his orders and listening to his ideas, which can then help them come up with them themselves.
Right.
I thought this battle was one of the most exciting we've seen so far in this show, especially since so many people were involved that we got to see. Rollo is helping out Lagertha, which was really great. Bjorn is fighting so fiercely. I think he did a great job, even though he, had the problem falling down and getting back up and everything.
I thought he did a really good job, too.
Yeah. Ragnar and the Borg are having this... We've talked about eye sex in this show, that we're having eye hate for each other in this back and forth, just staring at each other. In my notes, I have in all caps... Lagertha is the queen of badass bitches.
Oh my god, I love her so much.
She was amazing in this fight.
She's so good.
Oh, she was so good in this. Yeah.
And like a couple of the other people, they sort of had this look where they were like concerned about her. And she was like, dude, I got this.
Yeah. I liked watching her and Rollo fight next to each other for a minute there too. That was fun.
Yeah. That's another time too that makes me kind of want to like forgive Rollo.
Ah, yeah.
Because he's not being a jerk. He's being a good person and a good partner in this fight. And he's not stopping in the middle of the fight to say, so Lagertha, come here often. You know what I mean? He's not sleazy like he was.
He's just flinging people around.
He's big.
He is.
I mean, he's like a big dude.
Yeah, I forget when you just see them walking around, but man, when they get in there, these guys, they actually got, very brawny actors. He's tall, the wide shoulders. He's just, he's basically a footballer.
Yes. He would probably be very good at football. I say at football. I can't give you an actual position. He's just big.
Oh, and the Borg pulls this weird, like, magician crap where we think that Ragnar sees him and throws the axe and gets somebody, but then we see it's actually someone that just looks like him and has the exact same goatee.
That was weird.
Twirly thing going on. That was really weird.
They didn't fool me. I didn't think it was Jarl Borg that got hit with the axe. I don't think that that's how this show would end this conflict between the two. Oh, Ragnar sees him from across the field. He throws his axe. It hits him in the head. I didn't think that was what was going to happen.
The Borg does retreat after this, and we don't see him again. Do you think that the conflict is over, or do you think something else is happening?
Another thing about this show, just totally leaving things up to interpretation.
Yeah.
Because from then on, it seemed like Ragnar and company took back Kattagat. Mm-hmm. So did Jarl Borg and his guys all just run from the field directly to a ship and sail home? They all just ran. They're like, nope, we lost. Everybody, let's go. And then they just went home.
Yeah, when he said retreat, I was assuming they were retreating back to Kattagat.
Right, to fight some more.
Which obviously didn't happen because they weren't there. Ragnar was so mad that he didn't kill Borg that he takes it out on Bjorn. You have a lot to learn. So mean.
Shut up, Ragnar.
Yeah, I think Bjorn was fine.
And you can't tell me Ragnar was a better warrior at 17.
Yeah.
Just like he's doing the best he can.
Sure, he had plenty to learn. Everyone that left Kattagat is returning. People are so happy. Aslog looks a little jealous that people are so happy to see Lagertha. They are making a sacrifice to Odin, which turns out to be a person. I'm just reminded of their approach to death. He wants to die well, so he kneels and he's dutifully still, waiting for the axe on his neck. And it's going to be Rollo that does it, but he gets stopped. He seems angry at first, and then we realize that Ragnar wants Björn to do it. Lagertha is pissed. Holy crap. It's way worse than like Ned Stark making his kids watch
Right.
beheadings for deserters.
And I don't know, is it supposed to be like an honor to be the one to make the sacrifice?
I don't get that sense. I think that he in one way kind of wants to punish him, but also prove that he isn't going to pause. Though, you know, he slit a guy's throat right in front of Ragnar. He knows that he
Right.
is not afraid of battle. It just took him a minute to get up when he fell down, you know? Like, come on.
And why couldn't Rollo have done it? I couldn't tell, was Rollo mad because he wanted to do it and he wasn't going to be able to? Why was he mad? Because if it were me, I would be like, yeah, definitely. Somebody else should definitely do this. I don't want to do this. But he sort of seemed like, hey, I took care of this place while you were gone. I made sure that everybody was okay. I took care of your wife and family. You let me do this.
Maybe it was an honor to do it.
Yeah. So why wouldn't he let him do it? I think that Ragnar was way too hard on Rollo, you know, about the way that things got handled while he was gone. I think he should have been really appreciative and said, thank you for taking care of my family. And he never did that. He never said thank you.
Yeah, he didn't lose anybody.
No. And when he left, he said to Rollo, you're forgiven, but you can't come, which ended up sort of being, you're forgiven, but you can't come, but I expect you to take care of things for me while I'm gone. Mm-hmm. That expectation was there, and that's what Rollo did. And he didn't even get a thank you?
Pretty sure Ragnar's a millennial and totally entitled.
I guess. He's like, well, you betrayed me that one time, so you owe me for life.
Uh-huh.
Why am I fighting for Rollo right now? I don't like this conflicted feeling I have.
And then Ragnar goes to the Seer, says he loves two women and wants them both. We get a little bit about the story of the marriage between Jörd and Scotty. Yes, yeah. Didn't realize before that it sounded like Scotty, which just makes me think of Beam Me Up Scotty. She chose God based on his feet. She thought it was Baldur, who is the handsomest god, but it turned out to be Nord, which is like the Norse Poseidon, basically. I looked this story up. What we didn't hear from the Seer is that the marriage did not work out. It didn't last very long at all because they tried living where she lived up in the mountains, and it was too cold for him and too remote. And so they tried living at the coast where he lived, and she hated it because there were seagulls and not the birds she was used to, and it was all the water, and she didn't like it. And so the marriage was over after like 9 days or something. It wasn't long.
Wow, they really gave it their all, didn't they?
The Seer gives this kind of confusing statement at first, says that Ragnar should examine their organs, heart and liver and all that of all the women. Ragnar looks super confused. I was also very confused at this point. It was nice to see Björn playing with his half-brothers. We're just tossing around. It was so cute. Aslog is pregnant again. This woman is a baby machine.
I didn't get that she was pregnant again. I thought she was just saying that she was going to be pregnant again.
Oh, okay. I assumed that meant she was pregnant again.
I didn't assume that because they haven't been back together that long, and she had said that they couldn't have sex.
Well, she is prophetess.
That's
so
true.
Maybe they haven't had sex yet. She just
Maybe they just did, like, in the last 20 hours, and she's like, well, you know, I already know.
She's worried about the prophecy. We don't find out what the prophecy is. So, very mysterious, but apparently Ragnar knows about it. Then we get a little bit of a baby mama drama with Aslog not wanting Lagertha to stay. Ragnar obviously does. He's not shy about saying he wants her to stick around.
Well, this has been his opinion since Aslog showed up pregnant 5 years ago.
Yeah, why can't I have everything that I want? Ragnar goes to visit Lagertha, who's staying at Rollo and Siggy's, so it seems very nice. I really like Siggy more and more as it goes on. She
seems like one of the few characters that consistently makes sense.
Logical decisions.
I know what to expect with her. She doesn't vary wildly from one extreme to another.
The women do seem more stable in their decisions and actions than the men in this show.
Yeah, that's to be expected, because that's how we are.
Sexist.
The guys are really the drama queens on this show, and the women are
They
the
really
steady,
are.
reliable figures.
I guess that is a nice change from other shows. Ragnar asks Lagertha if she'll stay, and she really seems to consider it.
I think she wants to stay with Bjorn.
Yeah.
Also, her husband is a terrible person.
He is. I would not want to go back.
And I'm actually really worried about her going back and him being really mad at her. I mean, I'm not worried about her being hurt, like him being mean to her or beating her up or something, because I think that she's past, taking it. But
Okay.
I just think it's going to be uncomfortable.
And we still don't know if she took all the warriors with his permission or not.
I really don't think he would have said yes. He kind of already had said no anyway.
I enjoyed the scene with Siggy and Rollo sitting outside in the rain. It was really nice to see them both talking and him just being so open and honest. She asked if he was still in love with Lagertha, and he said, yeah, but that was the old me. And that seems like a completely different person than who I feel like I am now. The show has just a whole bunch of honesty and vulnerability in it, this particular episode, and I really, really liked it. It was a nice change from just intrigue that's happened in all the English shows and when they've been in Wessex and Northumbria, and just that kind of trickery going on. So I guess a more emotional episode than we're used to.
We got character emotion, which we don't always get.
We are in the Great Hall, the Longhouse, and poor Thorvard, the bearer of bad news at all times, shows up. He must be just sailing back and forth from Norway to England over and over again to get all this news, or have messengers doing it, because otherwise I didn't know anyone else besides Ragnar had been going there, but how else would he have gotten the news unless Horik already came back?
So this guy is the Hermes of the Viking world. He just takes messages back and forth.
I guess that's a good question, though. How did he get the message? Because I don't think anyone else has the compass. So, did Horik come back home?
Yeah, we don't know where Horik's at, mentally or physically.
He's a slimy bastard.
He is. I don't know what his deal is.
We find out that Egbert attacked and King Horik and his son escaped. There's no news about Athelstan, which Ragnar seems really torn up about. Lagertha appears and wants to announce something very important. It seemed odd that she announced this in front of the entire town, but okay. I mean, I guess everyone welcomed her back, and so it's like they're her friends, and everybody's probably wondering if she's gonna stay or not. Ragnar obviously wishes it was private because he thinks this is about she may reject him in front of the whole town. I'm so sorry, I won't be.
He is so self-centered. Just like, I'm assuming this is about me. Are you sure you want to say it in front of everybody? She's like, this is not about you, dude.
Lagertha, very unhappily, is going to return to her husband per her duty and leave Bjorn behind, who's going to stay with his father. So Ragnar gets something good, something bad. And poor Lagertha, man. Aslog runs out and thanks Lagertha. She's so grateful that she didn't stay, because, I mean, who knows how her relationship with Ragnar would change if Lagertha stayed. Because obviously she's the one he's in love with.
Oh, obviously.
Yeah, well, Aslog is, the mother of most of his children.
She's the baby machine.
Yeah. Next week, we're going to discuss Season 2, Episode 6, called Unforgiven.
Okay.
Which seems like it could apply to a couple situations here. Well, maybe a few. What do you think?
Well, it could be that Earl Douchebag doesn't forgive Lagertha for taking warriors and going to fight for her ex-husband, but I just can't see Lagertha really caring if he forgives her or not. Ragnar is not going to be very forgiving of Jarl Borg and his mini invasion. Who else needs to?
There's also England.
Yeah, I mean, ugh. I'm just so glad that Lagertha's back and now she's leaving again, and I don't want her to. So maybe it has something to do with Athelstan and his return to Christianity and needing forgiveness from God and not being able to get it. I don't know. I'm worried about Athelstan.
Certainly seems like someone should be worried about him.
Somebody should. Somebody should go get him. I'm worried that they've just abandoned him.
Do you think Ragnar would leave him there?
I don't know that Ragnar cares enough about other people to go back just for him, but I think Ragnar still wants to create a Viking town in England. So I think he'll go back for that.
So you don't think Athelstan is just stranded in Wessex forever?
I think he's stuck indefinitely, but I don't think that nobody's coming back.
Athelstan seems so conflicted. Do you think that he would return to Norway?
Well, nobody crucified him in Norway, so...
That's true.
If I were him, I'd probably go back.
Imagine if they got back and Floki saw him in the monk's robes. It would just make everything, just all the taunting happen so much more.
You know, for as much as I like Floki and I appreciate and respect his level of faith, he has zero tolerance for any other religion.
He really does.
I'm not sure what he would think. You know, and Athelstan has been trying to prove to Floki and to everybody else for years that he's left Christianity behind. And I don't know how he's gonna. I mean,
it didn't take long for him to get back.
Well, and also he's had no choice, literally zero choice about putting on these robes, about going to mass, you know, so Floki might show up and see him dressed that way and going to church, but he's not going to get the right
survival
impression. Athelstan, I don't know if Athelstan has ever had a choice, even from when he became a monk in the first place, about what his religious belief actually is. We don't know why he went to the monastery. Was that his choice even in the first place? We know he didn't have a choice about going with the Vikings. We know he didn't have a choice about coming back to England.
Yeah, I always worry about Athelstan and Lagertha. They're my two favorites, and they both seem to be in the most precarious positions.
I'm not as worried about Lagertha now as I was when her husband hit her and she didn't come up fighting. I was worried then, now not so much.
All right, Rosanna, what's your top 3 category this time?
This week it is 3 more reasons Lagertha is the best.
All right, I like it.
Number 1, she totally killed it in the battle scene. She was amazing. She didn't need help from any man. She just was doing her thing and taking care of herself and keeping a side eye on Bjorn to make sure he was all right too. Number 2, she was so nice to everybody in Kattagat, including Aslog and Ragnar's other kids. She was so nice to them, complimentary, magnanimous. She just was like, this is how it is, and I'm not gonna be rude about it. The kids, it's not their fault that their father's done whatever he's done. And she was really, really nice to Aslog, and she didn't have to be. She's just a really good person.
I think she's our only main character that has been completely consistent in her actions and the way she treats other people in the show.
Yeah, she's never been mean to anybody that, even people that she's mad at or disagrees with, she's even still polite to them.
Yeah.
Up into a point where it's
quite gracious.
Protecting herself.
Right.
But other than that, I mean, she's just a really good person. I think Ragnar's crazy. I mean, he's crazy to have let her go. Sons or no sons. And then number 3, she's leaving Kattagat to go home to her stupid husband. And Bjorn says, don't take any more shit. And she says, who do you think I am? And I was like, yes, old Lagertha's back.
Yeah, that was nice to see. It made me think again of when Floki came in when she was leaving, and he asked if she was leaving, and she said, of course I am. All right, do you have any predictions about what's going to happen in each of these situations?
I think Lagertha's gonna go home and she's gonna have to have a heated disagreement with her husband, and hopefully she can just say we're divorced like she did with Ragnar and there's no paperwork involved. She could just leave. I have a feeling though that his ego is gonna have a problem with that, with her just leaving.
What do you think will be the outcome of that disagreement?
I'd like to think that he's gonna be mad, but there's nothing he can do about it, and she's just going to say that's just how it is.
Okay.
But I don't know. The thing about Lagertha too, though, is she has a lot of people on her side. I think that the warriors that went with her probably knew that that was not a sanctioned mission, but they went anyway, and I think it's because they are loyal to her.
I have the idea that over time she has built up her own kind of entourage.
Who couldn't like her? Even people that don't want to like her like her. Like, even Aslog likes her. Because how could you not? You always know where you stand with her. She doesn't waver. She knows who she is. She's kind of, like, irresistible.
I've always said that Hermione's my Patronus, but I think that Lagertha might be my new Patronus.
Lagertha would be a very good Patronus.
Yeah.
She would also just be, like, a great best friend. Like, how lucky is Siggy that Lagertha's her friend?
Yeah, I agree. It was nice to see the two of them together again, too. Just happy to see each other and that friendship.
And I think when Lagertha left, it was probably hard for Siggy to pick between Lagertha and Rollo.
Oh,
I think she probably struggled with that a little bit. I expect, based on the way I think the show is being written, that Rollo is going to continue to show that he's turned over a new leaf, maybe.
Okay, yeah.
Because I think the show makers want us to like him and to forgive him. And I think we might see other characters forgiving him as encouragement to viewers to forgive him.
Yeah, it has not been a subtle push to
Not
change
at all.
our view about him from the writers.
So I kind of feel like I'll probably just get swept up into that also because they're pushing it so hard.
What about Borg? What's his fate?
Maybe they ran from the battlefield to the ships. They all got on the ships and they got caught in a storm and they're all dead and we don't have to worry about them anymore. I don't know. I'm kind of worried about his wife, though.
Where is she? They retreated not to Kattagat, so unless they made it back to Kattagat first and left from there.
When Borg was leaving to fight, she pretty much just said, "Don't go. Don't go fight. Can we just go home? I don't want to be here anymore." And he just completely dismissed her. So maybe she said, "Well, screw you. I'm going home anyway."
Let's hope so. Now it's time for Cheek of the Week, where we talk about something awesome that we want to share with each other and with you. My Cheek of the Week is an event that I just had yesterday called Halfsgiving. It is an event I have every year at my house. My husband and I have been holding it. This was our 8th annual Halfsgiving. It's halfway between Thanksgiving last year and Thanksgiving this year, about halfway-ish. We have a big kind of traditional Thanksgiving food, big potluck. We have turkey and mashed potatoes and gravy and stuffing and green bean casserole and pie, and it's super tasty, but we have a whole bunch of people over. And the rule is no family is allowed, though sometimes when Rosanna can come, she's allowed, but you're it. Nobody else that's related to me is
I'm
allowed
only
to
allowed
come.
to come as a family member if I promise to help do dishes.
That's true. And chop onions, and yeah, it's great. But yeah, it's super fun. Every year, my husband Ed does a whiskey toast, and it's lovely. It's a really nice toast, and it's really nice to get everybody together and have this big... It feels really like a family event, even though we're not actually related.
It also really does feel like it's Thanksgiving.
It does, yeah. There are a ton of people shoved into my living room on folding chairs and random chairs that don't match with weird tables connected so they're enough for everybody. It's generally a whole bunch of people. We had, I think, 16 people this year. But one year we had over 30. That was too many.
We love you, but please don't come back next year.
Yeah, we had to trim the guest list after that. But it's been really neat because some people are there every year. We have probably about half the guest list has been showing up most years since it started, and the rest of the list has kind of evolved over time. But it's just been a really fun event, and I think everyone should have a Halfsgiving because it is fantastic and so much fun. What's your cheek, Rosanna?
My cheek this week probably could be my cheek every week for the rest of the year because I went and saw Wonder Woman. It was the most amazing movie in the history of time. Second only to Princess Bride. Wonder Woman is an amazing movie. It was so good, so much fun, so entertaining. My husband loved it, my kids loved it, we all loved it. Everybody should see it at least 2 times. And then you should buy it when it comes out on DVD. And everybody should dress like characters for Halloween this year. And pretty much you should just put a little bit of Wonder Woman in your everyday life. Everybody should watch it.
Well, I always want to go see and at least somehow spend money on really strongly female-fronted movies like this. Even if the movie isn't something I super duper want to see, just so they keep making movies like this because we really need them.
And I am on board with women-directed films and films with women as the lead character. But for me, this movie, even though it had all those things, it just was a great movie. When I was watching it, I wasn't thinking, wow, I'm so glad that this movie was directed by a woman. Wow, I'm so glad that this movie has a woman lead. It just was an amazing movie. I didn't even have to think about that other stuff.
And it broke a record by quite a bit, I believe, for the highest grossing, just in the first week, female-directed film.
Well, and I hope, too, that other people that are making movies look at this and say, maybe we do have enough of an audience, I don't know, maybe 50% of the population, to make movies for, not even just for women. My husband loved this movie. He thought it was amazing. We all thought it was amazing.
Something that's not a romantic comedy. Give me something real.
And several years ago, everybody was talking about why isn't there a Black Widow movie? Which there should have been, and there still could be, with Scarlett Johansson. That, I think, would be an amazing movie, and I think everybody would be interested in it. Because it shows, you have this main character that's a woman, but the stuff that she does in the movie is not women-specific. She's just
Yeah.
a really great character. And you can do that with Black Widow, and you could make a Poison Ivy movie, and you could do this with a lot of these women superheroes that would stand next to Captain America and Iron Man and all of these and be fine on their own. I hope
Yeah.
that that is a trend that we'll see.
And so I'm really excited because I haven't yet seen Wonder Woman, and I'm dying to. But our very first episode on Something Cheeky About Movies is going to be about Wonder Woman.
Yay!
We've done the first part of my predictions based on the movie synopsis and the trailer, but I don't know any spoilers yet, so now I'm going to go see it and then we'll finish the episode like we do the rest of our shows. And so that'll be coming out quite soon.
And it'll be different than the way we do most of our shows because I will be the one that's running the show because I've already seen it. And Nikki will be the one making stupid predictions that everyone gets to make fun over. Yay!
I love making stupid predictions. It's great.
All right, listeners, you can visit our website to find all of our Cheeks of the Week. You can learn about our other podcast, send us questions and feedback, and support the show through our Amazon affiliate link at somethingcheekypodcast.com/Amazon.
That's our episode. Please leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. And follow us on Twitter at SomeCheek and Facebook.com/SomeCheek. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.
Dig-a-da-dum, dig-a-da-da-da-dum.